Michigan State football, their 2025 schedule is set, so adjust your lives accordingly. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you are feeling, how things shook out for Michigan State for their 2025 schedule next fall. Now, it's not going to be all football talk this show. Segments 2 and 3, we are joined by Zach Surdenik. He is the Michigan State basketball voice of the pregame show for your Michigan State Spartans. We talk pleasant surprises. Who is the most surprising individual player of the year so far? Really good conversation about that round ball with our guy, Zach. But hey, guys, this afternoon snuck up on me. I don't know if I'm just, horrible at keeping my ducks in a row as far as scheduled events go. But I did not think that they were going to drop the Big Ten schedule, so apologies that I didn't give anyone a heads up on that. But hey, you know what? Pleasant surprises are always welcomed here. Now, the 2025 schedule for our Michigan State Spartans means that dates are somewhat set in stone. We at least know what weeks Michigan State will be playing, when their bye weeks are. Should they get bumped to any Friday games, I believe we will find that out next spring, if not the summer. But hey, we got our weeks. We already knew the opponents, but maybe the opponents were a surprise for you too. Let's just go through the list right now. All right, class, pen and paper out because we're going to go through the schedule pretty quickly here. Week 1 at home, Western Michigan. Week 2, Boston College. Week 3, Youngstown State. All three of those non-conference games are at home. All right, September 20th, Big Ten opener at USC. Then a bye week at Nebraska. Then October 11th versus UCLA at home. And then we're at Indiana, October 25th against Michigan at home. And then we're at Minnesota. Then another bye week to end the season. Home versus Penn State, at Iowa, home versus Maryland. Hope you caught all of that. Now, if you didn't, let's just go through some notes here. Okay, like 7 home games, 5 road games. Pretty standard. What I do like about this schedule is that you have bye weeks before at Nebraska and then a bye week before the home game against Penn State. So pretty much any Eastern time zone or Central time zone team got either a home game or a bye week right after that West Coast game that all teams have now. Michigan State, they got the bye week. So yes, back-to-back road games, but with the bye scheduled in between those two. Now, those are the only 2 back-to-back road games for our Michigan State Spartans, and it is nice that they have a 14-day break in between those 2. I also like that they do end at home against Maryland. Now, I do wonder where that will be played. I assume Spartan Stadium, but with the attendance of last year's game and how well attended the Penn State game was, do they say, well, we already got 7 home games. Let's just move one of them to Ford Field like times have passed. But not trying to stoke flames. That's a legitimate question that I am wondering of what they do there. Also, what is to like about this schedule? We already knew this ahead of time, but if you live something called a healthy life and have a pretty good work-life balance between college sports fandom and everything else that you could possibly do with your time, maybe this wasn't known to you. No Oregon, no Ohio State in next year's schedule, thank goodness. Now, it wasn't an entirely clean break for Michigan State here. Like, what I don't like right now is there's actually no back-to-back home conference games for Michigan State. And we're nitpicking here. They do open the season with 3 straight home games, of course. But, yeah, if we're going to, cry and moan about something, we'll start there. Also, you got to wait all the way to October 11th for the first home conference game. That will be, of course, against Big Ten staple UCLA when they come to town here. The coach meet revenge game, I guess we can call it. Whatever, who cares? Nearly a month between home games is what Michigan State will have between the Youngstown game in week 3 and then that UCLA game we just talked about on October 11th. The toughest stretch, I think, on this schedule, week 8, 9, and 10. That is at Indiana, which is no longer a gimme anymore. Then home against Michigan, and then at Minnesota. So 2 road games in 3 weeks, no bye weeks, and then a difficult game against Michigan sandwiched in the middle there. So the schedule could have been a lot tougher, though, right, guys? I think last year's schedule, I mean, you played against 3 teams that made the college football playoff. I think that was a little more difficult than this one. That's not saying that it's going to be a cakewalk, but yeah, I mean, it's not, not incredible for Michigan State, but I don't think it's that bad either. Now, predictions, I think it's kind of stupid. I think it's dumb. Rosters aren't even close to being set, and I got to say, like, doing predictions this far in advance is probably the lowest form of sports media entertainment. I'd be insulting to the audience, and also equally as tough of a display of laziness, just lack of creativity, and just really reactionary for how dumb a host can be to do this even before the college football playoff even starts. The transfer portal hasn't even been open for a week. The new recruiting class, they're still in their classes in high school right now. There is so much that has to be done between now and kickoff. Predictions would just be stupid. So with that said, here we go. Week 1, Western Michigan, that's a win, baby. Week 2, Boston College, please win. Youngstown State, that's a win. At USC, Lincoln Riley, he's a fraud. He already lost Miller Moss. That's a win. That's 4-0, baby, going into the bye week. And then at Nebraska, sorry, Minnie Mahomes, but no, you guys lost too much outside of you. You took all the NIL money. There is no other way that you guys can form a good team. That is a win at Nebraska. Bang, 5-0. Home versus UCLA, please be serious. That's a win. Okay. So that's 6-0 at Indiana. All right, which, by the way, another incredibly easy schedule for the Hoosiers next year. I think we're going to lose that game, though, at Bloomington, unfortunately. Now, home versus Michigan, sure, a lot of turnover. They're going to lose, 4 or 5 NFL draft picks on that defense. That's a win. At Minnesota, okay, well, you caught us off an emotional win against Michigan. I think we're going to lose that game, then a bye week. And, folks, we are ending with a win against Penn State. They are losing so much off that team. At Iowa, my goodness gracious, again, please be serious. We're going to win that one. And then, that's right, ending with a bang of a win against Maryland. That's 10-2. Low ego, high output, even higher record. Is that my final prediction? Of course not, guys. Just like I said, long way to go before these rosters are set. I'll probably net out somewhere closer to a actual 8-4. 7-5 record, but it could be a lot worse. And what I like to do actually when these schedules come out is see who Michigan State's opponents are playing the week before they play the Spartans, because one of those old adages in football is hey, if you play a good team, you really play them twice, because it was so physical on that Saturday. And well, you're licking your wounds and you're a little sore for that following Saturday. You could even go to the NFL. Look how teams do after they face the Detroit Lions, okay? Not too hot. So that is sort of a thing. So let's just go through it really quick. USC, they're at Purdue a week before facing Michigan State. So they got to hop across a few time zones. Nebraska, just like us, they have a bye week before that game. UCLA, they are home against Penn State. Indiana, they got to go to Oregon the week before playing Michigan State. Now, Michigan, they're at home against Washington. Minnesota, they will be on the road at Iowa in a very heated rivalry game before playing Michigan State. Now, Penn State, they will be home, but against Indiana. Iowa, they got to go out west and face USC before playing Michigan State. And then Maryland, well, they're home, but they play Michigan. So, of Michigan State's 9 conference opponents, 4 of them have a road game ahead of time. Okay, 3 of those 4 teams will have to go multiple time zones, whether it's a West Coast team coming to the Central or Eastern time zone or vice versa. Okay, that's thousands of miles being added to the jet. Let's hope that jet lag lasts a few weeks here. 4 of them have home games. 1 of them has a bye. But, guys, I think all have games before Michigan State where you can kind of arch your eyebrow and be like, oh, that's actually not too easy. Like, even USC, they got to go to Purdue, guys. Like, that's not easy travel. UCLA, okay, they're going to play college football playoff home state. Indiana, they have a college football playoff team ahead of time, too. It's interesting that, you know what, there's not a lot of, like, oh, we got a home game against Northwestern or a home game against Purdue before the Spartans. Like, there's no, what I like to call them, active bye weeks ahead of Michigan State. So I thought that was pretty interesting, too. Am I looking way, way, way too into this, especially, again, for the, maybe 4th time I'm mentioning this now, way before rosters are even set for next year? Yeah, Yeah, we are, but that's just what we do here at Locked On Spartans. We look a little too deep into everything, don't we? All right, guys, we will be back with basketball talk, but first need to talk your ears off about Gametime, the greatest ticketing app out there. Now, if you're like me, you have an eye on attending that game next Tuesday at Little Caesars Arena, and if you are like me, you will be doing your shopping over at Gametime because, well, right now, you can hop on, check out the flash deals at Little Caesars Arena, or let's say next Tuesday, you get out of work a little earlier saying, well, it's Tuesday. Of course, I don't have any plans right now. Let's go see that basketball game, but it might be too late to save any money. Wrong. Not with Gametime. Their last-minute ticket deals are second to none. You could save yourself some cash even a little after tip-off. So if you're a little late to the game, well, just hop on Gametime anyway. They will have those seats up for a little bit longer after Gametime. Guys, start saving money right off the bat, too. It is so easy. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? You already know it. It is Gametime. Let's talk Spartan basketball, and no, it's not just me rambling on and on and on. We have a voice that you may find familiar. He is the MSU basketball host on the Spartan Media Network. It is Zach Surdenik. Zach, how on earth are we doing as our Spartans are rolling to start the season, man?
We're doing good. It's a lot of fun right now. This team is a lot of fun. They're fast, they're quick, and they really can put up some points, and that always makes it more fun to talk about. So
we're going to talk a lot about that because we have two mailbag questions that are going to set the show here. It's like, hey, who's been surprising the most? What's been different from last year? But look, you interact with the players all the time. You get to interact with Izzo a bit. Is the vibe just different this year, or is it just us fans that are just peering at this through the television that kind of feels like that?
No, I think the vibe is definitely the vibes are definitely high right now for sure. It's getting to kind of see everything, but even from the beginning of the year, talking to some of these guys, and I really like the guards' mentalities and the way that they've been going about things. And we're definitely going to get into Jeremy Fears and Jace Richardson a little bit as we go on, but
sure.
I think just the way that everybody is really around the team right now, everybody's feeling really good about where they're at. The shots are starting to fall right now too, which I think is a big thing. There was a lot of talk about that, especially in Maui and at the start of the year where it was kind of starting to boil over and everybody's kind of getting sick of are the threes going to go down? And when they weren't going down right away in Maui, where everybody talks about the rims there and how soft they are, and we saw that firsthand, it was kind of getting a little worrisome to people. But I don't think anybody really panicked. Had a comment from anybody on the team.
A little bit. Anyone that has like rationality and smarts.
Fair enough. There was a quote that we used in the pregame show a couple of weeks ago from Jaden Akins talking about shooting and talking about the slump. And he just said, like, it's basketball. You can't get too worked up about missing a couple shots because you can't make them if you don't shoot them. And you have to keep going out and shooting them with confidence. And I think that's what this team has done. And they've really started to go. I think the barn, which is a weird environment to shoot in, really helped, I think, talking to a couple of those guys. Like, they really like shooting there. And it clearly showed, and it kind of sparked things, I think, a little bit. So vibes are definitely high right now.
Never has that been said, that the barn has really sparked this team shooting. Even outside of Michigan State basketball, I don't think it's ever been uttered by anyone. So, hey, well,
fair enough.
We'll take it. Already a strange season, but strange for a good reason here. And setting the table for the next topic here is Alex. He always comes up with good questions. Guys, reach out, Sheehan_sports on Twitter or lockedonspartans@gmail.com. He writes in, what is the most pleasant surprise for men's basketball so far? I have thoroughly been impressed with the rebounding so far. Now, just to add some context to that, defensively, their rebounding percentage, 22% on the season. That is 5th best in the nation, Zach. And offensive boards, they are struggling. They're only 37th best in the country at the offensive boards. This is a really good rebounding team. I got a few things right now, but do you have anything that you want to just walk out there right now as biggest pleasant surprise for the season so far?
Yeah, so I've got two, although it's kind of a little more. But the first one is depth. I think the depth has been huge. This team, I mean, bench points, they're top 10 in the country. They continue to get everything going. And there really is like 10 guys on this team that can really make an impact. And that's not even including guys like Kurt Hang and Garrick Norman that have been 11 and 12 in this rotation that can also score too. They're
Sure.
really talented players that are young and struggling to break into the rotation a little bit. But when you look at this group, they're so deep and they've been able to do that. And that makes it really tough to game plan against because these Big Ten coaches are so good at taking away your best player or your best option. I mean, Nebraska completely took Creighton out of the game when they played Creighton. They took Ryan Kalkbrenner away. He didn't attempt a 2-point shot in that game. They came into East Lansing and Michigan State was all over them. And I think that a big part of that is there is no one player that if you stop them, Michigan State doesn't have 3, 4, 5 other options that they can go to. And so that's been really pleasantly surprising. And then something that Michigan State's gotten back to that we've heard a while for the last few years, they're going to try and get back to this, and they haven't really been able to. You hear the slogan, the defend, rebound, run. That's really been what this team has done this year. Their defense has been really good. The rebounding, as you already talked about, and then fast break points. Top 3 in the country in fast break points. They run, they're going to score, and they're going to get out so quick. It starts with the guards, but Jeremy Fears, Jace Richardson, Trey Holloman, Jaden Akins, you have 4 ball handlers that can all push it, and that makes a huge difference.
And you saw that in spades for the Minnesota game, and they even mentioned it on the broadcast. Like, hey, Minnesota's game plan, we talked to Ben Johnson beforehand, it's to not go for the offensive boards. Just get back, fall back on transition defense, and they still slice up the Gophers in the transition game. It's like, I get emotional talking about it again, Zach, but you know what else I can get emotional with? And this is one of my pleasant surprises, and I'm going to answer Alex's question with another question.
Okay.
And then give some context. That's right. We like to pull some tricks here on Locked On Spartan, Zach. You know, mix it up.
Gotta do what you got to do. Love it.
Gotta keep things fresh. So Matt C. wrote in, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. I need to see some analytics on lawn twos from last year to this year. The 2 things I find most enjoyable about this year's team is they attack the rim 1 through 5 and the rebounding. Last year's offense was horrible to watch as everyone settled for jump shots and never got in the lane. We all know that was not just an enjoyable watch last year. So here are the numbers behind that, because no, it's not our eyes deceiving us. It's not just us thinking, hey, they're taking a lot less lawn twos. There's actually numbers to back that up here. Now we're going to mosey on over to barttorvik.com. They classify it close twos, lawn twos, 3-point shots. Now last year, Michigan State, of the 2,050 shots they took, 35.8% of those were categorized as lawn twos. Now this year, of the 596 shots, just 25% of those have been lawn twos. That is a 10% drop. It's not too bad. Also, you're shooting it better when you are taking lawn twos. They're making it at 40% of the time as opposed to 37% last year. So yes, if it does look like there is a marked drop from lawn twos, the most inefficient shot in basketball, it's because there is. So, oh my goodness, look at this team just changing. This is incredible. And the efficiency on offense, they are top 30 in offensive efficiency. So that's just one thing that I got to remark on is no, it's not just, hey, wow, why does it feel like that there's not a lot of 16-footers at the end of the shot clock being taken? Zach, they're just playing beautiful basketball now. Like, it's not full on Houston Rockets, either layup or 3-pointer, but like we're trending in the right direction. So
yeah, and I think you saw that in that Minnesota game. There were a couple stretches and in the Nebraska game where I'm just sitting there watching, because one of the things I do is I'm working with stats during the game. And so I'm keeping an eye on that, but I'm also obviously watching the game from our spot. And there were times where I was just like, the ball movement here is different. And it's quick ball movement, and it's a lot of looking to drive. And it's not necessarily looking for that one dribble pull-up that you saw a lot, or a lot of weave action where nothing really came of it until the end of the shot clock.
Yes.
It's now, if they are going into that weave action, which they will still do, they're getting downhill a little more, and they're getting some penetration and kick. And it's a driving kick, but it's not just a driving kick for a 3. It's a driving kick to the corner that'll then lead to a pump fake and a drive and a layup or something like that. And they're getting good looks consistently, even if they aren't always falling. And that's something that I think the coaching staff was really big on at the beginning of the year when the 3s weren't going down. They were still getting good looks, and now shots are starting to fall a little more. And, I mean, they were scoring nearly 80 points a game without really hitting any 3s. Now that number is continuing to go up as the 3s start to fall.
FanDuel Sportsbook app, they are making life fun this football season. You guys already know that we were heavy on the college football action and still sticking strong with the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, if you're a new customer, that gets even sweeter for you because you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That is over at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. One other thing that I do want to mention, too, for pleasant surprise, it is getting to the free throw line. Oh, my goodness gracious, Zach. Like, look, Frankie Fiddler comes over. That was the one thing that we kept saying over and over and over again. It's like, this guy gets to the line 7 times per game. No one's done that, even more than 5 times per game since Cassius Winston in 2019. It's not just Fiddler, though, this year, Zach. This is amazing. They are top 60 in the free throw rate category on Bart Torvik, 40.3% if you want the number, but that is 54th best at getting to the line. And it also helps, too, when they're shooting the rock at about 80% from the free throw stripe, they are putting on 19.3 points per game from the free throw line. Last year, just about 12 points per game from the stripe. So they have been outside the top 100 nationally in free throw rate every year since 2018. This has been a long time since you've had a Michigan State team get to the line. I mean, sure, like, does it seem like statistically, oh, well, that's just a wussy way of scoring points? Like, no, it's not. Not in Big Ten play, it's not. You have to be physical. You have to drive. You got to earn the points any way you can. And dang it all, Zach, they're finally doing it.
And you gotta make them, and that's what they're doing. I mean, they have consistently been making more free throws than their opponents have been taking. And when you can do that, that's going to put you in a really good spot. Pretty much anybody you play.
It's just, you watch every game the last few years, it's like that the other team gets to the line a lot more than we do, and I don't even know if it's like an officiating thing. It's just a stylistic basketball thing. I want some of those free points. Give me some of those, and oh, they're doing it. Oh, it's just great. Is there anything else pleasantly surprising you, or do you want to move on to the next mailbag question here?
I think there's plenty pleasantly surprising, depending on what the expectations were. But I think we can get into that a little bit with the next one as well,
because it does set us up pretty good here. T-Bone's dad writes in, keeping the vibes high, as much of the discussion is about Michigan State basketball. Which MSU basketball player has exceeded your expectations the most relative to your preseason expectations for them? No shortage of answers here, just really quick, and we'll go more in depth. But I like Coen, Carr, Jaxon Kohler, or even Jace Richardson. Are you taking either of those 3 guys, or are you going off the board for your goal?
Yeah, so I think the obvious one, in my opinion, is Jace Richardson. I mean, going back to the start of the year, you've got listening to different things and people talking about Michigan State's roster. They weren't sure if any of the 3 freshmen were going to be able to break into the rotation. There's an argument that in a lot of the games Michigan State's played, Jace Richardson may be the best player on the floor at times. I mean, he has been spectacular. He's so smooth. I think the play that really described it the most for me, just seeing the game that can translate for him, thinking of that Nebraska game, he had that, came off that screen, quick jab step 3. I remember they talked about it on our broadcast about Matt Stegengo was like, I wasn't sure that was a good shot, but it went in. Hey, but that's the type of shot you see at the next level. A guy just taking over the game, slowing it down in his mind. Nothing phases him at all. And that's what's been so impressive to see for a freshman. And you see that a lot with kids of athletes that have done it at the professional level. They grew up in that locker room area, and it doesn't phase them. The moment's never too big. And I think that's been huge with Jace Richardson. But then, I mean, Coen Carr has been spectacular too. I mean, everybody was talking about Coen Carr needs to improve his jump shot. And I think he has improved his jump shot, even though it hasn't gone down too much this season. But that's not how he's impacting the game. And he's impacting the game in the half court still. Like, he's not where last year he was struggling to stay on the floor because of his struggles in the half court offense. Now he's finding his role. He's finding his spots. You're seeing him more in that dunker role as well, down low. They can bounce it off to him. And the energy plays are just spectacular from him.
Without question. And like, we are Jace Richardson people going into the season. I said, he's really like, screw all that though. He's even defied those expectations. Like, I thought he'd be solid off the bench. He's arguably the best player right now for Michigan State. He's showing up on draft boards, which is great for him, scary for us fans, because I want to enjoy this for more than 1 year. I mean, but hey, good on him. He is dynamite, and he just doesn't play like a freshman, just like you said. I mean, he is athletic. He can drive downhill and actually finish at the rim, too. So he's been spectacular. We just did an episode not too long ago, basically starting the apology tour for Jaxon Kohler. Yes. Not to say we were haters, but I did not see this much, tangible of a difference being made in the offseason. My man's averaging 8 and 8 and probably 8 minutes per game, additionally, on the floor, diving for loose balls. But maybe it is just Coen Carr all along, because it's not just the circus dunks, man. Like, he is producing on offense in more ways than just that. So it's awesome spot to be in that we really don't have a really strong answer right now. But this is Spartan basketball truly does seem back, Zach. It's amazing.
It's a lot of fun. And this isn't a player, but it's a group that I think Kohler fits into, but the bigs. I mean,
sure. Yeah.
Michigan, we've really struggled defensively and offensively in the front court the last few years. And this year, Izzo got a lot of flack for not going out and getting one of the big name transfers in the front court. And all three guys that have been there have been really solid. I mean, Jaxon Kohler, there was so much hype around Jaxon Kohler coming into last season with how good his offseason was. And obviously the Moneyball hype, I'm from Lansing, so I know about that. So the Moneyball hype around Jaxon Kohler last year, and then he got hurt and then ended up not getting much run. And when he got back, I mean, foot injuries are really tough to come back from, and he was out for so long. And so you never really saw it with him. But then this year, he continued to make strides in the offseason, and he's been really consistent. And then Shimon Zapawa's been solid. I mean, he's given you what he's going to give you, and that's been good. He's playing pretty solid defense. He's setting good screens. He's rolling hard. But the guy that I think has made the biggest jump, even from the start of the year to now, has been Carson Cooper. I mean, he really struggled early in the year. And then the last few games, especially toward the middle part, he was really solid. He had a big game against Kansas. He had a couple of big games in that stretch where he was just doing what he does. He's never going to be flashy, but he's going to come off the bench. He's going to give you really solid one-on-one post defense, and he's going to be able to catch lobs and dunk them. And really, that's what they've needed. When you can do those things consistently, and he's going to run the floor. And that's where you've seen that success from him. I think you're going to see more from a few guys as well. I've loved what I've seen from Xavier Booker the last few games. Yeah. I'm excited to see how he finishes the year. But that front court group in general really helps to start that defend, rebound, and run, because you can't really run if you don't rebound. And those guys rebounding has been huge.
No, that's spot on. Really quick on Carson Cooper. Do you have any inside information? After that, facial injury heals, does he just keep the mask on regardless? Like, this has got to be his thing now, right?
I don't know. I've been wondering about that. We've been kind of talking about it before our show on our broadcast. I'm kind of wondering that. But no, he's certainly playing well with it. So, we'll see.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Really quick, before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, this is something that we were talking about before recording. You got to travel with the team to Maui, as you do for all games. I was not hip to this, though, that there was a 3-hour delay on the tarmac in Oakland, sitting on the plane. What does Izzo do here? Or is he almost kind of sickly, happy about that because that's some adversity he could give to his team before going to the islands? He probably got some pleasure out of that.
I'll be honest, it was a very big plane. And I was not necessarily near any of those guys, and most of us were just kind of relaxing and sleeping. But so basically what had kind of happened was there was a problem with something at the airport in Hawaii. And so we were on the ground in Oakland, but as I'm sure you can tell, there's not really anywhere to divert to if you're in the air over the Pacific Ocean. So
not necessarily,
obviously, right. So obviously it was a precaution thing. It wasn't a big deal or anything, but it was just kind of an interesting spot on Friday because we flew out on Friday and didn't play until Monday. And so we're there on Friday. We're kind of it's pouring down rain in Oakland, which I've never been to California before, but my understanding is it doesn't usually pour down rain in California. So it's pouring down rain in California, in Oakland. We're just kind of on the plane. We got our food. They got us food, which was nice. And so we're kind of relaxing, but it was, it just made for a very long day. The flight back from Maui, one, vibes were really high after that UNC game. And two, the way that it was kind of set up is we flew out at 11 o'clock Maui time. So it's 4 a.m. Eastern time. So almost everybody on the plane just slept through the flight back, landed just in time to watch the end of the Lions game. It was just amazing on the way back. So
that's what I'm talking about. There we go. Yeah. The pools and beaches, the palm trees, all the sites are beautiful to see in Hawaii. Yes. I'm sure they are more pristine after a
It
layover
was
like that. That's
yeah, it was spectacular. I mean, we got in and we got to the resort on Friday night and then into Saturday, and it was just, and it's also just a cool like environment in that tournament. Like all of the resorts are in like one strip that's like a quarter mile from each other, and so you've got a who's who in college basketball just walking around the resort all the time. I mean,
that's so cool.
Auburn and Memphis were at our hotel, so we joked that the Sheraton supremacy, because all three teams that finished 1, 2, and 3 in the tournament were the three teams at the one hotel. But no, in general, it was just kind of seeing everybody around. And obviously you're in paradise. It's a gorgeous, it was 78 and sunny every day. It was spectacular. But just in general, that arena is so cool. It's really small, really tight, but it gets really loud. And it was just spectacular experience.
That's awesome. I got to start hitting on some of these FanDuel bets so I can go the next time Michigan State is out there. We've got a long way to go. Lord knows we got a long way to go in that category. But we'll keep trying our best the next few years. But Zach,
love it.
Cannot thank you enough, man. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go? Enjoy the rest of your week.
Check us out. We're on an hour before each game on the Spartan, or I'm on an hour before each game on the Spartan Media Network, Spartan Basketball pregame show. I'm on Twitter as well, at Zach Surdenik, as you can see if you're watching it online. But yeah, so check us out, and should be a fun stretch coming up. Oakland, and then back in the Big Ten play. Good stretch of the schedule for MSU here. We'll see if they can take advantage.
God, vibes are so high. I love this. Well, Zach, it's been awesome talking to you guys, the listeners, the viewers. Thank you all so much. We will be back tomorrow. You already know this. We do this 5 days a week right here at Locked On Spartans. But hey, until then, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Go Green.